Insightful ET Unwired webinar. I am Dimple Bajwa, your host for this session. And today we are going to focus on the topic Agile Demand Planning and Intelligent Forecasting using IBM Planning Analytics. Determining the impact of business disruption seems to be an uphill task during uncertain times. Hence, there is a requirement for a solution that provides the ability to quickly assess the impact of business disruption and explore different courses of action. To get a complete picture, the need is to collect data from multiple systems and external sources, quickly make sense of it, and understand what is driving the results. When performing intense data analysis, you want the whole picture. By combining the multidimensional capabilities of IBM Planning Analytics and the easy-to-use visualizations and reporting capabilities of IBM Cognos Analytics, you can quickly achieve your desired business goals. The powerful combination of planning analytics and Cognos Analytics provides you with AI-fueled insights, predictive modeling, and accelerated planning, budgeting, and forecasting cycles. This session will focus on how the combination of integrated planning and business intelligence enables more accurate business decisions. This session will also show you why these solutions are better together, offer insightful tips and tricks, and answer your questions. So here's what Planning Analytics and Cognos Analytics has to offer. Accelerated planning, budgeting, and forecasting processes for financial and operational planning, and the agility to easily update plans, budgets, and forecasts. Built-in options for data entry and spreading are simplified, allowing for both top-down and bottom-up planning. Enables users to explore scenarios, answer critical business questions, and see the impact of the changes in real time. Automate data modeling capabilities, allowing users to easily cleanse, blend, and shape their data for analysis. Highly visual and interactive dashboards allow users across the organization to monitor key metrics and deep dive into their data. If you have any questions during the session, please type them in the question box in your control panel. We will bring them up during the presentation, and we will also have time for the questions at the end. Without further ado, I would now introduce the panelists. Today we have with us Mr. Atul Joshi, Technical Leader, AI Applications IBM ISA, and Mr. Pradeep Iyer, Segment Leader, AI Applications IBM ISA. Now I would request Mr. Pradeep to take it from here. Over to you, Pradeep.
Hey, thanks, Dimple. A very warm good morning to all of you. It's a delight, to be with all of you this morning. And I must say that such a big turnout for this session is a delight for us. And we thank the ETH team for organizing this for us. And I must share with you that it's an honor to be with Atul Joshi, who's been a specialist when it comes to budgeting and planning and enterprise deployment of analytics in the whole process of planning for the last 2 decades. And we're here to share some of his experiences, and I'm sure we all will learn with this opportunity to know how in current times agile planning can make a lot of difference to every enterprise. And that's something it's going to be a learning for me as well. And I've been learning this for the last 12 to 18 months when the times have not been normal. And every individual can relate to the fact that gone are the days that we could sit next to our colleagues and discuss about what is this number that you put in, and where does it go to. But all that has changed. We are living in a virtual world, and there are the pros and cons of how we operate today. And this is sort of the right time where we can hear more from Atul. Over to you, Atul, for the next few minutes to enlighten us, and I'm sure each one of you will benefit after this session.
Hey, thanks Pradeep, and thanks Dimple, and good morning to all of you. I really appreciate you taking time out and letting us present to you what we have in store for you. So the session that we are going to have is divided into 3 parts. I'll start with a very brief, intuitive demo video, and then we'll be talking about, just an overview of the solution, a few slides that I'll present to you, and then we'll do a voiceover demo. So there will be a video demo due to the bandwidth restriction and the limited time we have. but it will be a live sort of commentary on the capabilities that you will see on the demo from me. So with that, let me start a brief video. Let me start sharing the screen.
You deserve more from your data. It's time to harness your organization's data to build more accurate plans, forecasts, and budgets with greater speed and confidence. Processes are siloed, labor-intensive, and error-prone. But you can no longer afford lengthy, labor-intensive planning processes caused by spreadsheet planning or subpar solutions that cause disruptions or can't truly scale to handle your large volumes or complex data. IBM Planning Analytics powered by TM1 is a modern planning solution that allows you to unify and streamline planning across every part of your organization to deliver faster, more agile plans that can pivot in real time. Gain visibility into real-time data with direct connectivity to source data. All users see the same data and trust in one version of the truth. With one common planning application, you can align users across all departments, from finance to sales to operations and beyond, with continuous collaboration capabilities. And changes to one plan automatically flows to others. With built-in reporting and analysis capabilities, you can uncover deep insights using robust dashboarding and visualization. Forget exporting data to another tool. All the functionality is included. What if scenario modeling lets you create personal sandboxes to compare different scenarios and test assumptions so you can see the impact of your decisions before making them? Transcend the limitation of spreadsheets and drive up adoption with IBM's robust Microsoft Excel interface. Keep the functionality you know with added capabilities of an enterprise planning solution. Keep your IT strategy and choose the deployment option that's best for you. Deploy on-premises, on cloud, or on IBM's Cloud Pak for data with the same robust experience throughout, so you can plan from anywhere at any time. Plan for anything. Be ready for everything. IBM Planning Analytics, powered by TM1.
Wow, so that was a very good summary. And so we have a YouTube channel and we have a lot of content on the product features and capability, and we'll be sharing that with you in the afterwards as well. So don't get limited by what you see today, because it just probably an hour session that we have and so many things to cover. So with that, let me start with a brief overview of the solution. So this solution, if just to give you a brief background, some of you might have heard this with a different name called TM1 as well. So IBM acquired this company and infused a lot of AI and a lot of additional capabilities. We have done a lot of investment in terms of R&D to bring the solution to the stage that is there today, right? So if we begin with why IBM Planning Analytics as a solution is something that people look out for, probably this is something that I think it's like preaching to the choir. All of you have, sort of undergone the same, challenges, whether it is in terms of a disconnected process, typically done in a manual spreadsheet, or, some point solution that doesn't cater to the enterprise level capabilities. And the net impact of that is you're not agile. I mean, you always take a lot of time. I remember when I was in industry, I was actually on the other side of the desk doing the planning for our strategy team, and we had to spend a lot of time. We had to had those sleepless nights consolidating data in Excel, and ultimately sort of that poses some challenges, especially when the business analysts are facing the CFOs in terms of questions, the iteration that happened during the planning process, right? So the question to be asked is the integration in place? When I say integration, it's really about how the different teams and organizations, department within the functions interact with each other. Probably there is a lot of silos that we see, and the key here is how do we overcome those siloed approach, right? Just to give an example from my personal experience, we at one point of time did a very high level changes to our planning process, during the last review of the cycle, and we adjusted some numbers in, some of the HR cost. And finally, the plan got approved. We are following a spreadsheet-based manual approach process. During the review in the next quarter, when the actual numbers started floating in, what we realized that there was a lot of gap, and we actually had a detailed review with the HR. At that time, they just said, these are not our numbers, right? So the key thing here is the accountability in place. I mean, I'm sure, I mean, even if you don't have the solution, you still have those emails and, those different reviews and meetings that happen. But a lot of time that really poses, a lot of difficulties in having everybody on the same page, right? So how do you go from the disconnected, siloed approach to really an integrated view where everybody is looking at the same set of numbers, whether it is your finance, your operations, sales, marketing, all the departments within the organizations, right? And a coordinated decision is always a good decision. I remember my time in one of the telcos I worked earlier. There was always a dependency between the network team and the RA team, because the network would do the capacity planning based on the sales and marketing numbers in terms of subscriber growth, and the subscriber growth would come from the available bandwidth that the company is going to invest capex in. So it was more of a sort of circular reference, if I may call it that way. We have a lot of finance people in the sessions today as well.
I think we'll
So
give a couple of
basically,
seconds for Atul to be back. There's a low bandwidth. Atul.
sure. Let me see if you are able to see my screen.
Yes, Atul, we can see you and hear you now.
Yeah. Right. So that was just an example I wanted to share from myself. Having said that, the way we see this solution evolving is it is not just a planning and budgeting solution. It is a solution which encompasses all the teams and different departments or functions within the organization and also across the industry. So we have clients in BFSI, we have clients in manufacturing, FMCG, telco, and across the world, pharma. And within those organizations, it's not just a one-time annual operating plan or budgeting process, but something which goes beyond that. So let's say when we are looking at sales, you can use it for not just the annual planning for your sales and marketing team, but also set the quotas at the individual level. You can do the incentive compensation planning. You can see the whole cost of compensation getting calculated from the same solution. If you take a look at the HR, some of the services organization, you see a lot of churn in terms of employees joining in, the requirement in terms of mapping the available skill of people to the processes where you are going to actually sell those services. Or it could also be for the IT. So IT is not just the custodian of the information technology asset. They also have their own requirement to do a very thorough planning, specific to IT. How are we looking at the different projects? How are we looking at our alignment to different vendors? How much we are spending? Are we nimble enough to get onto the modern technology? How do we actually optimize our cost? And also for the marketing, how wisely you are spending your money, in terms of getting the most out of the marketing budget that you have. And also effectively all these different technology, all these different use cases today fortunately can be combined with the built-in AI capabilities that we have. So some of the capabilities are like starters. For example, we have the built-in forecasting capability right into the solution, but you can also extend that beyond. So what I mean by that is today you see a lot of data science projects going on in various companies. We hire data scientists and we throw them data and they come out with wonderful correlation analysis, their own predictive model. So how do you operationalize those models? So this solution can also embrace the open source world of your leveraging your data science model, or we can have our own IBM Watson machine learning platform as well, which can very well integrate with these solutions, right? So this was just some of the use cases that I wanted to talk about. And it is not just, the list of use cases, but these are the actual testimony of some of our clients, using this solution across multiple areas and across the industry. So you have people from BFSI, the insurance, and CPG and telco, and many of our customers are talking about how the evolution happened for them in terms of bringing the culture of analytics in place, right? So this is with some of the testimonials that we have, and when we connect to you with our one-on-one interaction, we are happy to share with you our India success stories and India references as well, right? So with this, let me start with a brief demo of the product. Just allow me a second. Right. Right. So what we are looking at is the the welcome page or the home screen for the solution. So the solution can be used with a web-based interface, and you also have the Excel interface for people who are really powerful with Excel capabilities. They really want to leverage Excel. So we are not taking that away, but really putting it as at a centralized location. And then for the top management, we have these beautiful reports and dashboard that they can consume on their iPad, or they can have it right in their emails or mailboxes every morning, depending upon the frequency of the distribution. And this is a solution which is this is kind of single source for all your power users, whether they are using it to do a powerful what if scenario analysis, or just consuming the reports, or just doing a data entry, being part of the planning team, just for some of the line items. Or you could also be a powerful IT administrator who is looking at the overall scope of the project. So a single interface for everybody within the organization. So with this, what we assumed is we'll start with the finance first. So I can go to my one of the recently uh, visited planning template, if I may call it that way. So typically you will start with this kind of dashboard, and you would be looking at some of the key KPIs across the board, right? So on top you have the organization level KPIs, and also you have the snippets of data, whether you are looking at the products. So in this example, we have multiple products, and products are divided into sub product groups and down to the SKU level. So some of our CPG customers, they do a profitability planning where they allocate some of those costs down to the SKU level to find out what is the true profitability, right? You can also do a detailed drill down. So for example, you had product, you can drill down into the region. So I clicked on the East region. So within East regions, I have a couple of states, and I can go down to cities or taluka, as the case may be. And then I can go back to my previous screen as well, right? So this kind of gives me the overall view of where I'm in my budgeting process, planning process. But I would really like to see the detailed view of this, right? So typically a process starts with having the last year's actuals in place, and some of the targets. So in the middle you are looking at the sort of top down view given by the corporate management team, in terms of guidance. And the budget is typically multiple iterations of budget that you would be improving upon, right? So you have multiple data sets fit into a single solution. And when I look at this scenario, my whole focus is how do I optimize the budget to be in line with the corporate expectations. Now, one of the things that I notice is, let's say, occupancy cost, right, which is divided into multiple line items. So I can actually go on drill down into that and see what are those details. So with this, what I'll do is I'll go to my OPEX report. So this is my OPEX report here. And if I see there are, all these different line items, I can look at some of the things are, the line items where I could actually enter the data directly, and some of the things are the detailed model. For example, this payroll line item will actually come from a full-fledged HR model, which has headcount assumptions, CTC assumptions, and different training expenses. So all culminating into a complete payroll cost, right? Or some of those line items will be just simple line items, as you can see in the demo. Now, one of the things that I would like to see is, if you remember previously we were talking about huge gap, the expenses were really not in line, and I would really like to optimize those expenses. So I had a look at these expenses, and what I noticed is rent is really high. Probably it's some typo error, almost more than double or triple. So I would like to optimize these numbers. So I'll revise this number. So this again, rental cost can be across multiple geographies. So as you see on top, you have the different organizations or region. I can divide that into these, or have it at a total level, right? And also, how do I spread that monthly? So currently, if you see, there is something wrong, right? So your rent cannot change as per the business cycle. Rent is typically fixed, whereas the utilities, which is your, electricity and other expenses, which tend to change, based on the usage, so more in line with the business cycle. Now, what you see here in the spread method column is something that you define as your allocation driver, or business driver. So this is not something fixed, but of course you can change based on your requirement. So in this case, I'm going to change this, and you see the real-time impact of this on the graph. So now the utilities have changed, and I go back to rent, and again, make it sort of flat, right? So with these changes, the numbers have changed. I've reduced some of those expenses, and you'll notice that these expenses are also changed here. Right? I'll go back to my previous screen, where I was looking at the variance between my top-down expectation and bottom-up budget version that I had. And I'll sort of refresh this data, and I see the minus 80% now showing 6% green. So I'm actually better in terms of my target. So that's something I'm looking at. Now the next thing we'll see is also doing a detailed analysis of allocating the cost. So when I say allocating the cost, it could be central corporate overheads or some of the common cost centers whose resources get utilized across the organization, right? And sometimes this can be a very a detailed and tricky process, because you would be looking at multiple layers of process, layers or steps of allocation. So for example, here we are taking the Massachusetts travel cost and allocating it across the organization. Again, you may have a peculiar scenario where only a portion of those costs can be allocated. So as you can see, only 50% costs are allocated. And we also have the business drivers defined here. So you have gross revenue, square footage, or full-time employees. Again, not really limiting to these drop downs. We can actually take some of those drivers, or calculate a new driver. For example, I remember in one of the insurance industries, they have 50% cost, based on certain driver. 50% will be manually driven, a number that you can use as well. So here you see the entire cost getting allocated across different geographies, and you have the ability to look at what are the allocation driver that you are going to use. So you can select those drivers based on the requirements. So whether it's square footage, you have a drop down. All these items within the drop downs are available for you. So I make those changes, and go back and see how it impacts the overall. So after I've made those changes, you'll notice that some of the things for allocation to etc. has changed, and that gives me a detailed view of how the net profit post allocation would look like, right? So here I have my profitability, which is at a very detailed level, and you also see the net profit after allocation. Now here is another interesting thing. So as a finance, the activities won't stop just at the end of the planning cycle. Throughout the year, For example, you would be doing a flash and forecast kind of activity. So that is also there available as a part of our solution. So you can see the labels on top for the months. We are assuming that we are in the month of June. Already a planning cycle is sort of over. And how do you do a revised forecasting for that, right? So the flag in terms of A means actual, F means forecast data, and you can pick and choose depending upon which month you are in. So let's say if we are in the month of September, you can see Jan to August are actualized. And then for the remaining month, you will do a revised forecasting. Either you can punch in the numbers or use some of the smart capabilities like profiling them across the remaining budget or last 3 years actual and so on and so forth, right? So these are some of the key capabilities that you can use, which finance really loves in terms of making changes to these numbers, right? So what I'll do is, now that we have seen things from a finance side, and of course there are many more things which we can do. I'll be showing you how do we optimize our revenue now. So let me just stop this for a moment. And I'll start from a sales point of view in terms of optimizing the revenue, right? Again, for an individual user who is part of the revenue planning team, he will have his specific templates defined. So here, for example, you can see the overall dimensionalities for his process. So you have your revenue analysis, which is a kind of summary. Additionally, you also have the product unit, and you have the channel-wise details. You have the margin details. You also have the assumptions, which kind of takes into account the pricing and also the profit and loss, right? Again, here you can have a glance of some of those KPIs. So you have while you are primarily going to be working on the revenue, you can pick and choose different channels, and you see the real-time graphs changing. Also seeing the minimum to maximum within that particular KPIs. So we'll go back to our units as an example, and now we'll be focusing on how do we optimize the revenue, right? So here I have my organization structure. I can have my sales organization, or geography or product organization, again depending upon how do I have my planning process defined. Now some of the products I have is categorized into premium, standard, and smart. This is a demo, of course. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make changes to some of those numbers. So for this, what I'll do is I'll probably be looking at let's say somewhere down in the H2. So for H2, I'm going to make the changes. Either I can make the changes at total level, or I can select some of those channels. Like I selected retail, had a look at the number, but I'm interested in internet. So internet as a channel, I'll go to July. Let's change this to 9. And after I make these changes, of course, I can do the simple changes like this, but a smart way to do this would be using a built-in capability called data spread, right? So this is an out of the box functionality which lets you play around with the data. Now let's look at how it happens. So you can have a list of data spreading capability, whether it in terms of proportionately spreading those numbers, repeating, equal spreading. In the current case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the last year's actual, which is already there in my planning template. So we have the connectivity to your ERPs and other system, and we preload the data, the planning template with your actual number, so that can be used as a reference point or trend analysis. So here in my same planning template, or cube as we call it, we have the actual numbers. I'm going to use that as a reference. So I select previous year, prior year actual number, and select next. So this already gives me a reference to 698 being the last year number. So this year I'm going to either I can do a percentage increase, decrease, or I can actually put some values. For the timing, let me go ahead and make changes to the value at a total level. So I'm going to use 875 as a target for the total standard product, right? And then it will automatically bifurcate or allocate those numbers in the same proportion that was there in the last year, right? So as you can see, the 875 is the new, number of volume unit for this particular product set. Now I'm kind of done with the standard. The other thing I can do is, doing the analysis based on multiple scenarios that I can create out of the box. So we call it sandbox. So as a business user, in addition to having multiple versions like budget version 1, version 2, and so on and so forth, I can have my own versions we call sandbox. So it's more of a personalized version. So I'll have a best case, worst case scenario, or more practical version. I can name them according to just my thought process. So in this case, probably what I'm going to do is I'll create a new sandbox. Let me just call a new revenue as my own personalized version. So that's something that I'm going to use here as a sandbox. Now, the next thing I'll do is I'm not going to change the standards. So I'll put a hold on this, but at totality level, I'm not really happy with 10,000, right? So this has to go up. So what I can do is I can use a quick command like, using just a 12,000 kind of number. So I can say 12K enter, and you'll see that immediately it has spread this data across the entire planning template. So whether it is product or channel or geography, this data spreading capability is quite powerful in terms of how you analyze the data, right? Now while I made the changes, you'll notice standard has not changed, right? And I can also immediately see the impact of this on my income statement. As you see, all these different planning models are interlinked. So you have your sales and operations and marketing and finance. Whoever is working on these numbers, they can see the immediate impact of their changes at a summarized level. So again, here in terms of P&L, I have all those sandboxes that I'd already created, and I can pick and choose between those sandboxes, right? So I have the sandboxes that I can choose from. So now the next thing that I would like to see is, after making those changes, how do I actually use the capabilities in terms of AI-driven forecast that is built right into the product, right? So what I'll do is, for the timing, I've just selected the I've unheld the data, and then I'm going to look at one of the product. So in this case, PNX 2002 is the product that I'm going to use for forecast, not just entering the number, but let the system decide and guide me what would be these numbers, right? So you see this small icon on top, which says forecast. You can click on that, and then it gives you the detail in terms of the setups, in terms of what period you want to forecast. There are certain advanced capabilities for the data science a specialist as well, and then you can quickly preview a data. Now the way you see is, the system looks at the data, previous historical data. The more data you have, better results it will give, both in terms of the actual prediction as well as the confidence level. So you can see at the 95% confidence level, the accuracy is given pretty high. For those who understand the statistical detail, they can click on these details and analyze that in further granular aspects. So you have accuracy details, exponential smoothing model, if that is something that you are interested in using, and some of the other details in terms of accuracy parameters. If you want to learn more, just click on that, and a help file will be available to you, which has a detailed explanation on the statistics behind the scene, right? And it gives you the detail about some of the KPIs used in a typical statistical world, and some of the examples that you can really make use of. I also have this option to save those as a comment, right? So when I run this and my data is populated, I can see in my July there is a automatic comment that is added by the solution, which says how we have arrived at that data. So there is a forecast we have taken directly from the solution itself, right? So if you really see, this combines the power of both the human intelligence as well as the predictive intelligence that is there baked right into the product, right? Of course, you can give it to different teams. So for example, there is a team which is specifically interested in doing a pricing scenario change. So we have this product, we'll look at how the pricings would change. In this case, we'll probably use a simple scenario that the price will start and end backfitting the data, in those 12 months period, right? So with that, we have, 140 as a starting point and, 158 as the ending point. And you can see it has quickly backfitted that data. Again, I mean, if you go back to the income statement, etc., you will see the impact of price changes. You can always create n number of sandboxes that we had seen earlier. You can look at, how the margins look like. Of course, some negative margin, something definitely worth, investigating further. You can have a look at that. You can also see, how the whole things looks from a channel perspective. Now, one of the things that I want to, show here is a lot of time when we actually enter the data, we have these proportions. You have Excel and you say this particular data sets will be 10%, then 20%, 30%. So people actually input 20, 30, 40, and then the formula needs to be defined and then the model needs to be built. So what we have here is using the built-in capability, you can actually enter the data directly into the sort of percentage format. And then on the top level adjustment, you can just enter the desired output and it will quickly break back that into the same scenario. So let's say in this case, we had our month and we had, our quarterly data that is available. I'll just put certain percentage. So let's say 50, 30, 100. 50, 30, 20, which totals up to 100. And at the total level, I'm looking at the around 2000 odd units that I'm going to sell. So I'll just enter 2300 and, it just gives you the right answer, which typically proportionately spreads the data as well, right? So this was a brief overview. We go back to the planning template, keep on improvising on the numbers, and the journey sort of continues. So this was a brief demo that I wanted to show you on the some of the capabilities. Let me go back to my deck in terms of seeing what we had covered. Some of the things we could not cover today, and I'll be sharing you YouTube demo and videos on that is around some of the other capabilities. So one is your robust workflow that we have. We also have a very good Excel integration in place, right? And the most important thing is also the support for the alternate hierarchies. Now, typically what happens is you have a product which you would want to see from a shape, size, color perspective, and things keep getting added. So next year I'm redefining my product hierarchy as a focus product and legacy product. So all of that at a click of a button for the business user to really work upon. So this is something that we had not covered due to paucity of time, but you can have a look at post the videos that I shared, right? So just to kind of summarize, we can have all your data sources because planning is not about only financial numbers. You could also have some of the key KPIs which we can take into our solution using built-in ETL capabilities. So those cubes that you see in the middle, this is the heart of the solution, the in-memory powerful engine powered by TM1. You have the interface to work with it, whether it is Excel or web or given to the top management on iPad. Everybody is collaborating. We had earlier seen you can also have the workflow, and then you're looking at a completely integrated planning analytics as a process. In addition to that, depending upon the requirements, you could include a full-fledged data science model which can get integrated here. So you can have your own Python scripts which we can integrate, or you can also have the IBM Watson models or the decision optimization to make it a complete application with the built-in AI capabilities, right? It's also important to note that we also have very flexible deployment options. You can have the solution on premise that is behind your firewall, or you could go with the SaaS approach. And for some of those who are aware of IBM Cloud Pak for Data, a completely modern architecture from IBM. This solution is also available as an add-on, which will sit on top of the Cloud Pak for Data, right? So this is just a sort of summarized way of what planning analytics can do for you. And as I said, it's not just limited to one process. You can extend that beyond, and not just in terms of simple processes, but really leveraging the AI capabilities that you can look at. So you have your granular level data, you build machine learning model and start consuming these models in planning analytics. Normally what we have seen is there are a lot of people who create these models and then basically the output is just given to the business user. He goes back into Excel and tries to take some qualitative insight, and again he keeps doing the things in Excel. So what we suggest is you connect those AI model to the planning analytics layer. That way you are really going to leapfrog in terms of a very robust analysis when you do a real what if scenario analysis. You will see a lot of tools which are only reporting tool, and you drag and drop and you move the slider and the numbers change. Planning analytics is the only solution where you are also challenging the data, because you are not just doing a post-mortem of what happened in the past, but you are also looking at how the numbers will change in the future given the guidance that we have received from all these models, right? So just to summarize, the scale of superiority that you get with the built-in in-memory architecture, different functionalities, you can still continue to leverage your Excel capability. Some of those, business and finance user, they love Excel. So we also have the Excel add-in. You don't need a separate reporting engine. Again, a very good reporting engine, right, built into the platform itself, and the flexibility to deploy, the solution across, your choices from an IT perspective. Right. So this is sort of summarizing in terms of what we have and what I wanted to talk about. So with that, I think Pradeep, if we can take some of the questions that the audience has, we are
Sure,
happy
that's
to
great.
take those questions. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation, sir. It was indeed very interesting and informative. Now we will take up some questions from the audience. I request the participants to write their questions if they have any in the chat window or the Q&A window on the right side of the on the right side, and our panelists will answer them for you. So I would start by asking if this solution can get financial as well as non-financial KPIs relevant to planning and review process.
Right. A very good question. Sorry. Okay, so this is a very good question actually. Typically, if you see the business per employee, or some of these operational KPIs at the manufacturing plant, or the sales organization's efficiency, these are all very valid requirements, right? So our solution can integrate to your source data, which is not just an ERB, but maybe also you may have some other solution which has the quantitative data. So we take that data, and that is what gets used in terms of building those KPIs, not just for actuals, but also for the forecast or budget data.
All right. And does the user need to have knowledge of data science to use forecasting capabilities that we just saw?
So that's the beauty of it. So for example, if you ask me, I'm not really a data science. I've learned some of the key term from my data science colleagues. But really this sort of empowers you to ask the questions to the solution. So what is my forecast based on the historical numbers I have, and using the time series model data, it actually forecasts that for you. Now data science is a big world, so you can always do a jump start with this sort of analytics. You can connect back to your data science team and build more robust model again, which can be consumed back into planning analytics for the analysis. But to answer your questions, you don't need to be a data scientist. It's just available as a GUI for the business users.
Right. We saw that some users would use powerful what if scenario capabilities, but how about some first line users who would just upload data?
Correct. And I get this question a lot, saying that what you have shown is awesome, but you know what? There are people who are primarily, they will just load volume for the monthly financial analysis, right? Or they would just upload some of the operational KPIs. So we also have the capability where the users at a click of a button can load the data, whether it is in Excel or text file, or also giving that end-to-end process ownership where the data is still connected to your databases, but the user actually owns it. So he clicks a button, the data gets into the planning solution. In case there are changes, for example, new GL line items getting added or new product, it gives him a further sort of screen where he can actually do the mapping himself. So even for those users who are not frequent, we can give them those basic features. And as and when the analytical need evolves, obviously the whole suite of functionalities available within the solution.
Right. We have another question. Can you elaborate how this solution can be used for more use cases beyond planning?
Correct. And this is a very I would say interesting question, because some of the use case that I showed you, they actually come from our existing customers. For example, one of our insurance customer in India, they actually selected this solution for their planning and budgeting. However, at the time they wanted to implement, there was a challenge in terms of the bandwidth of the business users. So what they did is they parallelly started another project to automate and streamline the whole incentive and compensation for their channels, their agency channel, and they went live in flat 3 months. So this gave them two distinct benefit. One is obviously streamlining, automating the process of calculating those incentive and compensation. Second was to give this whole operational aspect, right? So instead of doing things in Excel, people can actually calculate the cost of compensation, whether it is in line with the top management or not. So yes, to answer this question, against every department, we can have those specific use cases, like sales, you have the HR, then you have the finance, and obviously we are happy to connect one-on-one to identify if there are any low-hanging fruit. We can definitely start with that, or you can always go with the big bang approach as well.
So we have one more question. Some of our users are Power Excel users. How can they benefit from your Excel integration?
Correct. So I remember myself when I was part of the industry, I had pretty good Excel skills, and people really like to continue to use it. So with our Excel integration, what happens is I'll give you an example, right? So I'm, let's say, going to input certain numbers which are coming from my other files where I've used VLOOKUPs and pivot tables, etc. So I can continue to use these formulae and directly link that to my planning. So I still write that VLOOKUP formula because I'm an expert in Excel. The Excel will calculate VLOOKUP and directly send those numbers to the solution. So that way I, use best of both my Excel expertise as well as the solution capabilities.
And I think we are done with the questions here. Thank you for answering all the questions, sir. We will now end this session, which has undoubtedly been very engaging and perspective. And I'm sure our participants would have got some rewarding insights today. I thank the panelists for sharing the knowledge with us. I also thank the audience for being with us during the session on Agile Demand Planning and Intelligent Forecasting using IBM Planning Analytics. Please join us for more such webinars. This is Dimple Bajwa signing off. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks everyone.